The Galactic Empire spanned 10,000 systems and counted its fleets in the tens of thousands. Civilizations bent beneath its banners, surrendering without hope of resistance. They had seen countless worlds rise, shatter, and fall, and each new conquest taught them the same lesson. No opponent could withstand them for long. It was a simple truth repeated by history, carved into the stars themselves. When the Empire came, others submitted or were extinguished. Yet along the edge of map space, there were whispers of something different. Smugglers, merchants, and bounty hunters carried a rumor, like a cold wind through crowded ports. Do not provoke the Baba Yaga. No one could name the source of the story. No one could point to where it began. 100 versions existed, told by frightened voices to those willing to listen. Some swore it was an assassin. Others claimed it was a ship. A few believed it was an entire species that had no fear, no mercy, no limits. The Empire cataloged these tales, laughed at them, and stamped them with a single word: superstition. When an Imperial scout cruiser detected human life signs on an unregistered world in a frozen sector, it was nothing remarkable. Colonists without protection were easy prey. Their outposts looked primitive. Low heat emissions, no visible starports, no heavy weapons. The mission report declared them insignificant, but the senior intelligence officer recommended patience. The colony's power grid didn't match its surface footprint. Something was buried under the ice. He suggested reconnaissance. His superior dismissed the warning. They are humans, nothing more. This is a trivial conquest. A task force moved to secure the system. 5 destroyers, 2 frigates, and a support carrier, more than enough to crush any local defense. Orders came down with absolute clarity. Subdue the planet, strip its resources, show no weakness. The officers aboard the flagship discussed the campaign with the casual tone of executioners sharpening blades. Their enemies were fragile, slow, and unarmed. But beneath their laughter, a merchant who had sold information to the task force whispered to a junior lieutenant, "Leave this world. You don't know what you're stirring. They told me once, never wake the Baba Yaga." The lieutenant laughed nervously and walked away, but his hands trembled when no one watched. The colony remained calm as the blockade formed. No frantic transmissions for help, no attempt to evacuate. From orbit, the humans seemed to go about their routines, tending crops, repairing equipment, even letting their children play in the snow. Surveillance drones recorded families teaching the young how to handle firearms as easily as they taught them how to stack firewood. The officers reviewing the footage couldn't decide if it was quaint or unsettling. One analyst noted the efficiency of their movements, the way they dismantled and reassembled weapons without hesitation. "They don't look like settlers," he murmured. No one listened. The Empire's presence became heavier. Patrol ships scanned the ice fields, their crews mocking the primitive settlements below. Intercepted radio chatter revealed no fear in human voices, only curt instructions and silent compliance. The Imperial commander grew irritated. Conquered populations always showed distress. This one didn't. He ordered a demonstration, a low-orbit flyover at attack speed, engines screaming against the sky. Settlements below looked upward, but did not scatter. No weapons were raised. No defensive shields activated. Only a single coded transmission escaped the surface. "We see you." The Empire dismissed it as bravado. A recon team of elite soldiers deployed to survey the largest settlement. Their commander reported steady signals as they moved through empty streets, then static swallowed their voices. Their locator beacons vanished one by one. A gunship sent to retrieve them found only untouched snow and footprints that ended abruptly at frozen cliffs. The commander aboard the flagship cursed their incompetence and demanded more troops. When an intelligence officer suggested caution, he was silenced. "It's a cold rock with farmers. We will end this in an hour." The humans sent their first real message then. A transmission burst into every Imperial channel simultaneously, encrypted with codes the Empire didn't use, a voice calm and cold. "Leave now. This is your only warning." Officers laughed and played the message back for entertainment. Soldiers joked about hunting snow rats. None questioned how humans access secure military frequencies. The blockade tightened. Cargo haulers were ordered to hold position as the fleet prepared for orbital strikes. On the surface, humans vanished from sight. Thermal scans showed empty houses, coal machinery, still fields. The settlers were gone, yet power levels deep under the ice climbed steadily. Something enormous stirred far beneath the crust. The Empire ignored the readings. A single destroyer descended lower for intimidation. Weapons online. Its sensors malfunctioned. Lights dimmed, consoles flickered. Moments later, its engines failed mid-orbit. Crew members screamed through open comms as emergency protocols failed. The ship slashed transmission there inside, followed by silence and the sound of bulkheads tearing. Wreckage fell burning into the snow, scattering debris across the frozen plain. The Imperial commander ordered a full assault. Armored landers launched in formation, carrying hundreds of soldiers. As they entered the atmosphere, their targeting systems died. Altitude readings failed. One by one, they disappeared from the fleet's tactical map, their signals cutting out mid-descent. Above, bridge crews cursed at dead instruments and flashing red alarms. Below, not a single explosion marked their landing. It was as if they had been swallowed by the planet. The Empire tried to laugh off its losses. They called it sabotage, freak weather, bad luck. But the junior crews whispered about the stories again. "It's him," they said. "The Baba Yaga." They spoke the name like a curse, glancing over their shoulders as if expecting someone to be there. When officers barked at them to stay quiet, fear only spread faster. From the darkness of the ice, humans watched everything. No panic, no confusion. They moved through frozen tunnels, each step deliberate. They spoke little, their eyes sharp, their weapons maintained in silence. They had known the Empire would come. They had been waiting years for this day. The settlers were not farmers hiding in fear. They were bait. The Imperial commander, furious at the lack of resistance, declared the colony conquered. He ordered the carrier to broadcast an announcement of victory to the entire system, but no signal left the fleet. Communications were jammed, though no jamming ships were present. Internal diagnostics failed to explain it. Then every screen aboard every vessel lit up with the same image, a dark human silhouette standing alone on a snowfield, its features obscured. A voice spoke through speakers and helmets alike. "You were warned. You did not listen. You do not belong here." Officers barked counterorders, trying to trace the source. Nothing appeared on scanners. Weapons crews demanded targets but saw only static. Then the voice again, sharper this time. "Leave now." The Imperial commander laughed into his bridge microphone. "We don't take orders from ghosts." The order to attack echoed through every Imperial channel, but no missiles launched, no beams fired. On the flagship's bridge, crews slammed controls, cursing at dead weapon systems. Targeting arrays refused to lock. Guidance systems spun in circles. Across the formation, captains shouted at their subordinates, demanding answers that never came. The enemy had not fired a shot, yet the fleet's firepower was already crippled. A single voice cut through the chaos. "Calm. Human. I warned you." Then silence. The commander overrode safeties and ordered manual launch. Torpedoes dropped from launch tubes but detonated immediately. As if triggered from within, gunners swore they had not touched the firing circuits. On every deck, lights dimmed, screens glitched, alarms rang without reason. Marines preparing to drop to the surface found their suits' airlocks sealed from the outside. Shuttles failed to detach. The carrier's fighter wing never even powered on. Someone or something was inside the fleet systems. At first they suspected sabotage. Maybe a spy. Maybe human hackers. But human tech was centuries behind theirs. No human could breach Imperial encryptions. It was impossible. Yet every warning light screamed otherwise. The first destroyer broke formation to perform a full diagnostic and simply vanished from sensors. Not destroyed. Not cloaked. Gone. When frantic messages demanded its return, static hissed, and then a brief, chilling phrase. "You can't run." The remaining ships closed ranks, activating internal firewalls. Marines patrolled their own corridors, guarding against imaginary borders. The Imperial commander barked orders to keep discipline. His voice carried over calms, shaking with barely controlled rage. He swore to burn the human colony to ash, to make an example for the galaxy. His officers tried to hide their fear. The crews could not. They whispered again about the legend, about the name that kept repeating through unsecured channels. Baba Yaga. On the planet below, nothing moved on the surface. The ice plains lay empty, wind carving ridges of snow over abandoned settlements. But deep beneath, in vast tunnels humans had carved long before the Empire ever arrived, activity surged. Generators thrummed at full power, ancient railguns came online, drones armed themselves and took flight. This was not a colony caught off guard. This was a fortress waiting for the trap to close. The first counterstrike came without warning. The carrier's navigation array overloaded, sparks raining across the bridge. Before any engineer could react, emergency thrusters fired on their own, pushing the massive ship toward the planet's gravity well. Engines roared at full burn to correct course, but helm controls were dead. The flagship screamed warnings as the carrier spun helplessly, its own thrusters tearing against itself. At the last moment, stabilizers engaged, then cut out again. The giant vessel lurched downward, grazing atmosphere before regaining partial control. In those few minutes, terror swept the entire fleet, but the humans had only begun. In low orbit, an Imperial frigate detected approaching contacts. Its gunner prepared to fire, then saw nothing. No ships, no missiles, only faint radar echoes too fast to track. Seconds later, the frigate's engine block erupted from within, torn apart by shaped charges planted inside its own maintenance shafts. As it spiraled into the void, escape pods launched automatically. None of them answered hails. When recovery teams finally closed, they found the pods empty. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Just open hatches and frost forming on the seats. The Empire tried to regain control. The commander ordered every ship to sweep for infiltrators, but the boarding alarms were false. No humans were physically aboard. Something far worse was happening. Systems failed as if obeying an unseen hand. Communications routed back to the colony, even when disconnected from relays. Imperial officers shouted into their microphones, demanding to know who was responsible. A voice, cold and precise, replied, "I told you to leave." Fear cracked discipline. Some captains demanded retreat. They plotted hyperspace jumps, but their drives refused to engage. Navigation screens displayed only a single phrase in human script: no exit. Panic spread faster than orders. Soldiers locked themselves in compartments, watching their motion sensors track footsteps where no one walked. Gunfire erupted on multiple decks at shadows that weren't there. The Imperial commander refused to back down. He broadcast a system-wide message, promising to obliterate every human settlement and salt the ground with plasma. In answer, the humans gave no speech, no threats, only action. Orbital bombardment targeting systems, primed to vaporize the colony, misfired. The destroyer leading the strike saw its own weapons reprogrammed in real time. Its plasma batteries swiveled, firing not at the planet but at its own escort. One Imperial vessel gutted another before anyone could cut power. At that moment, the fleet truly understood this was not war. This was a hunt. Down on the surface, Imperial troops still trapped in their landers found themselves surrounded. They never saw human faces. Only flashes of movement, silhouettes vanishing into snow. One by one, their comm channels went silent. A squad reported being stalked by something too fast to see. The last words from the ground: "They're not fighting, they're just waiting for us to die." Then nothing. In orbit, paranoia consumed the crews. The name Baba Yaga spread like wildfire. Veterans of dozens of campaigns clutched their rifles, as if those would help against an enemy that never appeared. Officers tried to restore order, threatening executions for cowardice, but their own guards eyed them like enemies. Men who had burned cities without remorse now jumped at the sound of closing airlock. The humans intensified their assault. Electronic warfare units hijacked entire ship AIs, turned them into ghosts that obeyed human commands. Supply lines vanished. Ammunition depots detonated in perfect synchronization. Long-range comm buoys broadcast only human voices, whispering coordinates that led to ambushes. The Empire's most advanced sensors showed hundreds of phantom ships surrounding them. None real, all believable enough to force them into constant evasive maneuvers. Fuel reserves dropped, engines overheated, and still the humans never showed themselves openly. Finally, the commander ordered a desperate measure: total surface bombardment with manual overrides. His gunners prepared to level every inch of ice. As they aimed, their targeting screens filled with single figure, a lone human shape standing in snow, utterly still. Then every weapon went dead. The voice returned, quiet and absolute. "You should have left." Ships began dying in silence. One destroyer at the edge of formation drifted cold and dark, all power lost. A recovery corvette approached to render aid. As soon as they docked, both ships exploded. No warning, no signal, just fire blooming in vacuum. On another vessel, atmosphere vents opened without command, sucking entire decks empty into space. Survivors sent frantic reports. "They're killing us from inside our own ships." The fleet was shattered, its formation in ruins, but the commander still refused to believe what he faced. He told himself this was just sabotage, that humans could not possibly match the Empire's strength. But the truth was undeniable. His ships would die without a single enemy vessel in sight, systems failing as if the fleet itself obeyed a different master. Hyperspace remained locked out, drives inert. Navigation showed only blank void, and a single word burned across every screen: "Stay." Every order he gave came too late. The humans did not attack like soldiers. They moved like executioners. A corvette tried to power down completely, hoping to hide, but its life support stayed on just long enough to send out a distress call before cutting off entirely. No response ever came. Crews aboard other ships saw its lights die and assumed it had drifted too close to the frozen world below. But when drones were sent to investigate, the corvette was simply gone. No wreckage, no heat signature, no signal. The commander called for reinforcements. Long-range comms never answered. The humans jammed or rerouted every outgoing signal. Even distress beacons reported false coordinates. In a galaxy that once trembled at the Imperial banner, this fleet was alone, unheard, and already condemned. Inside the surviving ships, paranoia consumed discipline. Crews shot at shadows, convinced that humans had boarded. Officers sealed entire sections, sacrificing their own people to contain threats that didn't exist. Engineers stripped circuits in panic, trying to find where control had been lost, only to discover their own systems rewriting themselves in languages they didn't recognize. Lines of human code, ancient, simple, and devastating, spread through Imperial cores like infection. The humans were not only hunters, they were patient. They could have destroyed the fleet outright, but they chose instead to make them understand. The voice returned on every channel, calm and unwavering. "I told you not to come. I told you not to stay. Now you will not leave." The flagship's gunners opened fire blindly, pumping plasma bolts into empty space, chasing phantom targets. Ammunition reserves dropped, weapons overheated, but nothing was hit. The railguns buried under the colony answered with precision, punching holes clean through armor. Ships vented atmosphere, spun helplessly, and fell silent. Those that survived the impacts discovered their engines offline, their power grids unresponsive, their crews trapped behind sealed bulkheads. The humans didn't need to kill them all at once. They could simply wait as fear consumed them. Some Imperial officers tried to rally their people, shouting that the enemy was only human, fragile and weak. But the crews had seen enough to know better. These weren't fragile colonists. This wasn't war. It was punishment. The name Baba Yaga was no longer a rumor, but a curse spoken with shaking voices. The more they tried to deny it, the louder it echoed to the corridors, as if the ships themselves whispered it back. The commander attempted one last strategy: regroup the surviving ships and make a concentrated hyperspace burn. Drives were primed manually, safety locks disabled. When they engaged, nothing happened. The jump interfaces lit up with a single human message: no escape. Then the drives physically tore themselves apart, rupturing power conduits, spilling molten metal through engineering decks. Those who didn't die in the blast faced fires with no suppression systems. The humans had already overridden them. Outside, the ice world stirred. Panels buried for decades slid open. Launch silos disgorged weaponized drones, cold and silent, each one carrying simple orders: isolate, disable, erase. They darted through debris fields invisible to Imperial sensors, cutting down lifeboats before they could even separate from hulls. Escape was impossible. The first officer of a destroyer tried open comms with the humans, begging for terms. The only reply: terms were given before you fired. Then his ship went dark. A single kinetic slug from the planet's surface split its reactor housing in two, venting the vessel to vacuum in seconds. No screams carried over comms this time, only static and the fading hum of dying power. The commander, now pale and trembling, demanded to know who Baba Yaga was. Was this soldier? A ship? An AI? The voice finally answered, calm as ever. I am whoever you send to kill us. I am whoever comes back to make sure you never try again. One by one, the remaining ships died. The carrier's hangar doors cycled open by themselves, venting every remaining fighter into space without fuel or crew. The frigates guarding the flagship collided with each other after their thrusters misfired simultaneously. The last destroyer tried to ram the colony, engines screaming at full burn, but its guidance suddenly shifted, flipping the vessel end over end until it tore itself apart from stress. On the surface, humans remained unseen. They never celebrated. They never broadcast victory. They simply watched their trap tighten. These were not soldiers acting out of rage. These were executioners finishing a task with perfect precision. The flagship stood alone, its hull scarred, its reactor unstable. The commander ordered a final message sent to the Empire, but his comm officer reported dead channels. Every attempt to speak to the outside galaxy looped back to the same voice. There is no one to call. There is no one to save you. In a desperate fury, the commander armed his ship's self-destruct, determined to deny the humans their prize. But when he pressed a command, nothing happened. Control had been taken from him. The humans would decide when the flagship died, and they waited long enough for every man aboard to know it. As systems failed one by one, the crew heard the voice again, no longer cold but final. Tell your empire, if they come here, they will never return, but you will not live to tell them. The bridge crew wept. The commander screamed until his voice broke. Then the lights died, the reactor overloaded, and the flagship exploded in orbit, scattering burning fragments across the night sky. When it was over, no Imperial ship remained. No distress call escaped the system. No survivors drifted in lifeboats. The humans wiped away every trace of the fleet, scrubbing debris fields with automated drones until the ice world was pristine again, as if no battle had ever occurred. Far from the frozen sector, other empires heard rumors. Merchant vessels spoke in whispers of a fleet that never returned. Intelligence operatives pieced together fragments of intercepted transmissions. The name Baba Yaga spread from world to world, changing as it passed between languages but always carrying the same meaning. Do not attack the humans. Do not provoke what hunts for them. Do not think you can flee. And somewhere deep in human space, unseen by any alien eyes, preparations continued. Weapons were cleaned and stored. Tunnels were resealed. Settlers returned to their quiet routines as if nothing had happened. Children played in the snow while watchful eyes scanned distant stars. The humans did not need applause. They did not need witnesses. Their victory was not for glory. It was a message. The Galactic Empire had been warned. Others would hear that warning whispered in shadowed ports and smugglers' dens. Do not attack the Baba Yaga. He will never let you flee. And if they failed to listen, humanity would wait again, silent, patient, inevitable,